Click subscribe to get daily Manchester United content from passionate Reds, only on All for United.
Hello and welcome back to Timeline Talk on All for United, joined by a very special panel of guests, magnificent foursome. Neil, Ahmed, John, hope you're all right. Big talking points to get into this week. Obviously, the main one being that Cristiano Ronaldo interview. Obviously, we mentioned it very briefly last night if you checked out that show, but we're going to go more in depth this week. So I'll just get your general thoughts first of all. Neil, I'm interested to get your thoughts in this. Obviously, it's an all-telling interview given the current state of the club, but what did you make of it?
I think we've had this discussion on our group chat, but for the benefit of people that don't have the glory of accessing that, I think it's possible you could read that interview with Ronaldo saying, "Hello, I might be available in the summer," or because the last time a captain spoke out aggressively as that captain didn't actually last that long, or a team leader, then if you like, and I know he's not. But I think I'm not quite sure. The dressing room has seemed fractured to me. I mean, I have no idea. It's only conjecture. But the dressing room has seemed fractured to most of us, I would imagine. I can't see how that's going to bring the dressing room together, because the players do seem to be a lot more sensitive to any sort of criticism, be it from inside or outside the club, than they even were, at the start of the Premier League era. I mean, we've all probably laughed and joked. We'd lovely to see Roy Keane walk into the dressing room, but there's other players I'd want to hear actually before Ronaldo. With all due respect, and I know there's loads of people out there that love Ronaldo and they love all this about him, and there's no doubt about it. He's a true legend of the club. He's one of the great players of all-time history. But he's been back at the club 5 minutes. I'd rather be more interested in what David De Gea's got to say. The last time he spoke out, he got his arse kicked for speaking out. But he's been there all the way through, from Fergie, from all the success, through Moyes, through Van Gaal, through that clown Mourinho, and what's happening. It'd be really interested to see what he thinks now, because he's probably the one I would look up to the most in that squad. If David De Gea was doing a press conference tomorrow, I'd tune in. I think a lot of it is a bit of self-publicity, and let's be honest, Ronnie's quite good at that.
Yeah, certainly has. I suppose he's built a career off that, hasn't he? Most followed person on social media, this, that and the other. But Ahmed,
I think he's a few behind me.
Well, yes, obviously. He's a few behind in the looks department as well, so you've got that as well. But Ahmed, obviously a very honest interview, not the sort of thing you see from a United player that often anymore. So what did you make of it? Was it telling how honest he was, how he seemed to go against the media training that United give a lot of players by the looks of it?
He's a very honest man, is Ronaldo. I think for someone who obviously has succeeded in the game as much as he has, he feels, I think, entitled to say what he wants to say. And I understand his frustration. I think he obviously sees that things aren't going well out there, and obviously while he can only do so much to keep Manchester United afloat, it's just at the moment. I think he's also a part of the reason why we're not doing so well as the collective out on the pitch. I think a lot of what has happened this season has centered around his return to the club. And obviously the idea this season was obviously to build on what Oli did last year. That obviously hasn't worked out. It then spiraled into like a very unusual period now where we've seen an awkward Manchester United, a side that I didn't think I'd see play football the way they have recently, maybe a hark back to the Van Gaal days. So it's for him to be coming out with the sort of things he's saying about the young players, like not being mentally strong or be able to be disciplined and all that. It's a bit weird for me, but look, I think he's justified in what he says, but I also don't think he's got sort of the right of way to say it at this time. Maybe if we were in a bit more higher position in the league, I think I'd respect that. But I think now is not a very good time to sort of try and poke the stick at a few people and see what comes up. I think it's better to wait and see how we fare late in the season.
Yeah, well, it's interesting you mentioned that. Obviously, I was going to ask you, John, about this. Obviously, the timing of the interview that came and when it came out. Obviously, we've had reports all week that there's this sort of mutiny within the squad. No one's really happy with anything that's going on behind the scenes. So, surely it's no coincidence that the club allow Ronaldo to do this interview at this time.
No, I completely agree, and I agree with the points Ahmed and Neil made. I viewed the interview similar to the Wolves interview Shaw had after that game. In that, I thought, yeah, fair play to both of them for being honest, for confirming what most Wolves fans suspected anyway. But I personally don't think it is helpful unless the team now learn from the mistakes they've been making, and there's no evidence to suggest that they will. So until we see further evidence, I don't think interviews they both gave were very helpful. I agree. Yeah, the timing of it is relates to I look at the Shaw interview, because you remember after he gave the interview, there were lots of reports coming out about players like Maguire, Cavani, and I think Greenwood felt that Ronaldo coming in has affected them and that kind of thing. It was having a negative impact on Maguire's leadership and that kind of thing. Those were the reports coming out last week, and now I don't think it's a coincidence that Ronaldo's come out himself after a couple maybe negative headlines about him to prove a point. Well, I'm actually a winner. I'm one of the few people to actually win titles here. Most of the squad haven't. I know what the standards are at Manchester United, and I think again some of the reports now that Ronaldo's the only one who's apparently who does goes to the gym after the training, that kind of thing. So it shows a divided squad most certainly, and like I say, I don't think it's helpful.
Perhaps not. I'll ask you a similar sort of thing then, Neil. Obviously, we've seen the squad, as Ronaldo said, they don't really react that well to. Well, it seems as though they don't react that well to criticism or anything constructive. So as a fan who's grown up in the age of the tougher players, there's no nonsense sort of players. Is it frustrating for you to see that it's taking a player like Ronaldo, who himself isn't exactly the toughest nut, to come out and say, we need to be more strong mentally. You need to listen to what I'm saying, and this, that, and the other. You're on mute, mate. Hang on.
I was doing everyone a favour by actually going on mute. I never normally do that. Normally I have to be encouraged to do that. I'd love to know what Rangnick thinks about this as well, with Ronaldo stepping out, because I think Rangnick's in quite a bizarre position here, because we're all assuming, or we're all pretty certain, that Rangnick's not going to be the manager come June the 1st. He's moving upstairs. The players know this. Rangnick knows this. The board knows this. The fans know this. So everything's all over the place. It's all been thrown up in the air. It's like we don't know what's going on, because Rangnick can call his tune all he likes, but you've got footballers sitting there on 150 grand, 200 grand a week. We'll just see 6 months out and say, right, we'll start again under a new manager, whoever the new manager is, and it looks like it's between two people. So I'd rather that they didn't say anything in some respects, because you got one person saying something, and then, suddenly Fred was the first one to come out, and suddenly he was then, all the fans were like, "Oh, great, Fred spoken up, well done," you know, all that sort of stuff. 3 months ago, but we wanted Fred deported. Most of the fan base, but because he speaks up, he's suddenly turned into Gabriel Batistuta overnight. I know they both played in different areas of the pitch, but you get my point. And then other players were spoken up, and then, you know, something's been connected to what Maguire. There's something about Rashford. Rashford then had a pop out. A lot of people saw that for, you know, him speaking up. So why is it any different if Ronaldo speaks up? And why haven't the fan base turned around and said, "Hang on"? I mean, the players are there's a lot of snowflakes in the game today. I think that's the term that the kids use, isn't it? I've learned that off my daughter. But I think with Ronaldo speaking up, I don't see the benefit. I don't see what he's going to gain when he's returned to the club. He's been there 5 minutes, and he's only going to be there another 5 minutes. Because if they do what they've done at what happened at Juventus in Ronaldo's last season, which is mirroring, very similar to what's happening there, it's all starting to fall apart. He'll be gone in the summer. He'll be gone somewhere else. So he's going to affect his he's got to be careful because he could affect his legacy in the eyes of some of the fans there. So I'm quite surprised he did speak out. And because he could have said exactly those words privately to the players. He could have got in the dressing room after training and ripped into anybody. And, you know, but to make it so public, I think all it does is damage the club at the moment because it's so fractured. It just appears to be so fractured. And that's what worries me as a fan. Fergie had an iron grip on the dressing room. And when they're on the pitch, it was Keane who run the show. And he was his manager on the pitch. You see nothing of that now. There's no iron grip on this dressing room. And this is a squad that really needs an iron grip, in my opinion. You know, it really, really does. It lacks character. It lacks that character of, you know, that will that we had under Ferguson. And I actually quite like when they got Van Gaal because he struck me as a bit of from the same sort of mould as a Ferguson. He would have got hold of the dressing room. He would have got on top of stuff. You know, and I think it was a mistake getting Van Gaal. I mean, hindsight's a wonderful thing. But we just miss strong leadership all across the board at the moment. The fact that the manager's not going to be there and he's going to be, director of football or director. At the moment, I don't think he could direct traffic, never mind bloody football. So I want to see what's going to happen in 6 months because I don't see anything. I don't see us getting top 4 at the moment. It'd be a fucking miracle. So, sorry. I think it would be.
We're past the watershed.
No, but, you know. But I just don't see us getting top 4 based on where we are because we're getting more and more fractured as we get further through the season.
We certainly are. Well, Ahmed, I'll bring you in on that point then. Obviously, you know, I don't think Ronaldo's comments probably will have helped how divided the dressing room is. But in your opinion, sort of as a fan, from that perspective of it, are there positives to take from Ronaldo's interview? Because we've had a lot of negatives on the panel so far. You think anything good can come of this?
Well, coming to me for a bit of optimism in a dark time. James, if I'm honest with you, it's extremely hard to find many positives. I mean, looking ahead, we've got, again, tomorrow is going to be difficult. What Ronaldo says will obviously have I don't think exactly a major bearing on the performance or on the match tomorrow. If it does, then it's clear to see the players watch that interview and may have either felt butthurt by that or it would have been a kick up the arse they needed that they're not getting from the manager. So I'm torn, to be honest. If I'm looking for a positive tomorrow, I would turn very obviously, and I'm praying he's fit enough, Phil Jones to start. Get that confidence back in the defense. He played well against Wolves. It's a shame he didn't play the last couple of games. So the hope is that, or the last game against Villa. So the hope is now that he can play tomorrow and that he can help out, you know, get a bit more aggressive play into that defense. I tire of seeing Fred with banned, see them again tomorrow. So really, I think the team's going to be the same. But the only real positive we need to see is a performance and a margin of victory that makes us feel like, okay, that's something. We need to see more of that in the upcoming games, because at the moment, as I said, we are lacking one or two things, and one of those is, as Neil alluded to, someone who's really gonna just get at them when they make mistakes or when they're like lying down on the pitch, giving opportunities for opposition. It'll be a tough one. Whether what Ronaldo says to me, or has said to me, as I've said already, will not be good timing, because obviously having just won the last game, it won't help in terms of building that confidence for the next match. But whether it kind of gives a whole new opportunity for the players to show their worth and prove doubters wrong, then again, this is another chance. Hopefully they'll go and take it.
Fair enough. Did you have anything to say now? Saw you.
Yeah, isn't McTominay injured for tomorrow?
He's suspended.
Suspended. Sorry, isn't he suspended?
Oh, damn it.
And
that means Matic
another thing, sorry to cut across John's time. It's where Ronaldo's interview is going to resonate, and who's it going to resonate with. You know, that could be the worry. And what when he was putting this together, with whoever he was putting this together with, what were his expectations of it? I'd love to ask him now, right? Or if it doesn't go right tomorrow, I'd love someone in the press to say, right, you come out and said this week. Do you think what you said has had something to do with it? Because I haven't got a lot of confidence in us. I mean, we as fans, we're becoming it's like a broken record. We seem to be saying the same old thing about this team. This is going to be one of the longest seasons in history, the way we're going, because we're all desperate to kickstart the season. It's January, and we still haven't kickstarted it. Sorry, John.
Yeah.
So I'll come to you next then, John. I want to focus on one specific point that Ronaldo made in his interview, and it was about young players sort of not listening to the advice he gives, and if he doesn't give them advice, they're not coming to him and asking on how to improve their game. So is that I'll ask this as sort of a double-headed thing. Is that a worry to you that these players aren't using one of the best players in the world as their sort of guidance? But on the other side of it, are you of the opinion that maybe it's not Ronaldo's place to start barking orders at players who have actually, at this current moment in time, been here longer than he has?
Yeah. Well, I don't think it's the position of any individual player to be barking orders anyway, because you're meant to be team. Going back to your first point about, does it concern me about young players perhaps not seeking advice from him? Yeah, it does, because we can say Ronaldo is selfish, individualistic, but he is a proven winner, and he spoke about his experience when he was their age, when he was at United, and how these players used to, our main players around that time would pull him aside saying, you can't do that, and that allowed him to become the player he is now and has been. And you do look at certain players who have been in our team for a long time, and it doesn't seem to be developing them. I look at, I love Mason Greenwood, for example, and for me, he's got all the talent in the world to potentially be one of the best goal scorers for the next decade, potentially. But his game hasn't really changed from his first season, and he's still very selfish. And even though he's not technically classed as a young player, someone like Rashford's game hasn't really developed. Again, it's a selfish. It's all individualistic with our team at the moment. And yes, it is. You shouldn't just go off what Ronaldo says all the time and demand people, you must do this, you must do that. Yeah, but there's a time to do it. Of course there is. If that's what a leader does. Or a few leaders, if they see a player's not doing the right thing, a few of them should pull that player aside saying, come on, just keep it simple. Don't play selfishly for yourself. Look for the team. And whenever you see us playing, the team's just completely misjointed, and all the players are playing individualistic. I've been to the last 3 home games, and I mean, barring, you could maybe say the Burnley first half we did reasonably well, but the Wolves game and Aston Villa game, particularly our forwards, they were just a bunch of strangers. Like Rashford was just, the Stretford end started to turn on him that game, and it's the first time I've ever noticed it. And it's just, if these players don't learn from players like Ronaldo, they won't ever improve. And I think it goes back to Neil's point that he raised, that maybe some of them can't take criticism, and if they're not willing to listen, so long as it's not done in a bullying and intimidatory way, they should listen to him and watch what he does, because he's proven. And if you don't look at him, don't say you have to copy him on everything, but at least look at him, see where you can make improvements in your own game, and then hopefully in the future you'll won't be as good as him, but certainly become great players for the team, hopefully.
Yeah, certainly. I want to follow up on that point you made about the performances in general, because it brings me nicely onto the next talking point that I was going to give to you guys. I'll come to you first, Neil. Obviously, the performances haven't been great, and Rangnick said once again in his press conference about how we still don't have that control in games that he goes on about seemingly every press conference. Now, I've not been on a show with you for a while, especially definitely not since Rangnick has been appointed. So when you watch this team on the pitch, Rangnick spoke a lot about the balance between defending and attacking today as well, and doing one while being able to do the other at the same time. So what is going wrong on the pitch, in your opinion? Because I don't think it's improved much since Ole Gunnar Solskjaer got sacked, has it?
No, I've got to be honest, it's probably got worse. But we didn't get that bounce that you normally would expect to get with a new manager. I mean, I don't know why you seem to get a new, somebody somewhere will come up with some facts and figures as to possibly why, and explain why you get a bounce. But we got no bounce at all with Rangnick. But I'm not... When was the last time he actually managed the club? And he's never stepped into a club like this, of this magnitude, of this size. Yes, he's an enormous respected coach, and he's developed a lot of players and managers, but he ain't managed the team for a long time. Many seasons. He's never managed in the Premier League. So suddenly he's come to United, big, and he said, Chelsea had approached him, wasn't interested. And he said, when United come asking, you can't say no, sort of thing. So he might have walked in and thought, bloody hell, what the hell's going on in this place? Because I think the problems off the pitch are affecting what's going on the pitch. I'm not actually quite sure. I listened to Stu last night, and I think Stu's mentioned this a couple of times, that we seem to play more of a diamond system, which when we fall into that, we seem to look a better team. Whereas this 4-2-2-2 thing, or 2-2, whatever, how many 2-2s, God knows. But we seem to, it does look more like a diamond pattern. And the diamond pattern should work. We've got no midfield. The spine of the team is all over the place. I've always thought you built a team around your spine, but the spine's not good. We were screaming out for a cent. I mean, God, is this a broken record? We're still screaming out for the same players we wanted 2 years ago. Ollie wanted them. We all knew he wanted them, and we never got them. And we just find the wrong players. I mean, we've got loads of strikers. We've got loads of defenders, but we've got no midfield. And I'm not quite sure what the system is. I'm not necessarily a massive believer in it. You've got to have rigid tactics or rigid formations. You should I like my back four to be my back four, good goalkeeper, a bit like Fergie's team, 4-4-2, and his front six just basically interchanged themselves and off they went. And the back four kept the door shut. There's a cliche for you. So I really don't know what Rangnick is. I think he looks a bit like rabbit caught in the headlights sometimes on the touchline, and you just look at me, you think, I'm not sure, mate. I'm more interested, and I think John believes this as well. More interested in Rangnick's next job than this job.
Yeah, yeah, I suppose only time will tell. I think he's got a job nailed on here, hasn't he? Even if he's not
We're going to
manager.
wait. This season's going to be wasted, I think,
Yeah,
and
yeah, I
potentially,
think-
therefore, we've wasted a year of Ronaldo's career.
yeah, certainly. I think it's a bit of a write-off so far. We're just sort of caught in between different rebuild jobs, aren't we? But Ahmed, go on. What are you going to say?
Rangnick didn't sign for Ole, did it? He didn't
No.
sign for Ronaldo. Didn't sign for Rangnick. He signed.
No.
He signed for Ole.
Yeah, I don't even know if Ollie wanted him that much, but
no,
it's all speculation, isn't it?
That,
But
that was part of the deal, though, wasn't it?
Ahmed, I'll come to you because obviously Neil made the point that there's no midfield at the minute. Defense is all right, attack's all right. There's nothing in between now. We mentioned earlier McTominay's injured. We covered this a bit yesterday, but I'm interested to get your thoughts on it. Is it finally time for Donny van der Beek, or if Rangnick keeps going on about this control and balance, and what is the answer, especially without Scott McTominay in there?
Is Donny van der Beek our saviour that's been around the whole time? Ooh, I doubt. I want him to play so bad. It's getting to the point where I may have to physically go to Old Trafford and put him on the pitch myself. Donny needs a chance. I echo, I think, what Rangnick said earlier today, in which Van der Beek is keen on playing football. He's a bit wary of the fact that the Dutch are in the World Cup. He wants to get into the starting 11 because Van Gaal made it clear he has to be a starting player to either be considered to be at the World Cup in the winter. So he really wants to get in the team now. You could say the same a bit for Dean Henderson because he's thinking about the England goalkeeping position. I know it's two different positions on the pitch, but the same scenario. They both want game time. They both want a chance to get into the national team for the World Cup. But in our case, in the midfield scenario, we are going to obviously miss McTominay deeply because his performances, while they haven't been like flashes in the pan, have somewhat played a part in our recent wins that we've had against Burnley and against Aston Villa. But in other essences, I think not having it means we could put someone else in. I don't want to risk Nemanja Matic in a match from the outset because the Villa team are known to be very busy, and we noticed that on Monday in that midfield area. They love to run at men. They love to press you, squeeze you in the midfield. They did that a lot against us on Monday night. So I think there is a strong shout for Van der Beek tomorrow. Whether he's impressed in training or not, we don't know. But we know that he had 15 minutes, 20 minutes on Monday, didn't have much to do. He's probably one of the freshest players because of the lack of game time, all that we have in the squad. So if he gets a shot at it, I think he should be entitled to a starting opportunity to demonstrate what he's capable of in a pivot. I'm sure if it was up to him, I would rest Fernandes for this game, but he's too crucial for the team in the Premier League, so that's probably too much of a risk to leave him out. So we're probably going to see him and Donny on the pitch at the same time. If Rangnick plays it safe, we don't see Donny. We play Matic tomorrow. Fredson is just there because he works in somewhat one form or another in that pivot. I also want to agree with what Neil said because we look great in a diamond, and the one time we tried it worked a treat against Leipzig last year. I don't know if Rangnick is going to be ambitious that way, but it would be good because to have a diamond in that team. I have just managed to sit there and do nothing but clean up the whole game. Put Van der Beek on one side and Fernandes on the other, and then Ronaldo, Rashford, and if you want to play another midfielder in Fred, maybe you play Fred on the left and put Fernandes in the hole behind the two. That would be great. I think we'd profit more playing in that sort of setup compared to playing the wider 4-2-2 setup we have here because it looks a little disjointed every time I see it, and we open gaps up on the wings. There is scope for Sancho to play this game, but I would rather him play if we're like winning the match and we need someone to come on just to hold up the ball, control it for a bit, bring him on with like an hour gone, 70 minutes when Villa are tiring. I'd see him getting some contribution in the game, but I I would love to see Adoni tomorrow. If Rangnick is listening out there, give him a chance. At least he needs that opportunity to show us that he's got something in the tank at this club. Otherwise, I don't know how much more hope we've got for him.
Go on, Neil. I know you wanted to interject a few times.
It's just a bit of a quick shout out. I mean, I can't believe no one's mentioned it in the comments. Can't believe any of us have come up with it. Phil Jones in the 6. There you go, Kartik. If you're watching, that's for you.
But we need a centre back, though.
Do we? Really?
We have no centre backs. I think Lindelof. I think I would rather him sit this game out.
Maguire will play.
Yeah, just don't put. I wish Phil Jones could start, but in defence tomorrow. In defence, I just.
I wish
we'll see. I'm starting to warm to the idea.
Deary me. Well, we'll stick on the topic of players who haven't really played that much, and I'll come to you first, John, on this. Obviously, reports have been coming out all week about Dean Henderson and his, will he go? Will he not go? Obviously, Rangnick said again in his press conference that he wants to keep Dean Henderson, but this is a player who was very, very good at the end of last season. I think, in my opinion, I think he suits the Rangnick system well, but it's going to be very hard for him to get in over David De Gea. So do you think he needs this move? Do you think it is, at least a loan move? Do you think it's pretty stupid by Rangnick just keeping him on to sit on the bench?
Yeah, I think he will benefit from a loan move. I mean, he has been really unlucky, Henderson. I personally think he would have been the number one at the start of the season under Ole, but unfortunately got COVID just before the start, and that meant De Gea had to start as the number one, and he's been probably our best player this season ever since. So you can feel for Henderson on that front. I think he does move. I mean, there was a rumour that apparently stormed out of Carrington because he was told he wasn't playing, and I didn't notice he wasn't in the squad. I think Heaton was the reserve or the backup goalie on Monday, I think. But the problem he has though at this point of the season is what club will change their number one in the middle of the season. I can't think of that many clubs who will be like, we're not happy with our number one, we'll get Dean Henderson in, and it's going to be quite difficult for him to find something, a place. It seemed like that, unfortunately, the best he could hope for is to be a number two, unfortunately, I think, at most clubs. And I think for the good of his career, I can see De Gea being the number one again next season. I think if he could, I mean, he was at Sheffield United previously, and he did a brilliant job there. But obviously, there's a huge difference between Sheffield United and Manchester United. And you've also got to factor in that was 18 months ago, and he hasn't been like the first choice goalkeeper for quite a while, and 2 years is quite a lengthy period. And I think that what I would like to see Henderson do is maybe De Gea is going to be the number one next season, so maybe go to a club with a slightly higher pedigree than Sheffield United, maybe to like Everton maybe, or someone like that, to see whether he's good enough. Someone like me, I do like Henderson very much, but at this moment in time, I do question whether he is right to be Manchester United's goalkeeper at the moment for the long term. I'm not completely sold on him, but I do think that he does need to find a club. If there is a club that can take him as number one, then yes, he should leave, but I think it'll be very difficult for him at this time of year.
I'll come to you, Neil. Obviously, I'm working on the assumption based on what you've said today that you're a big fan of David De Gea, but I think there's no denying that Dean Henderson's a brilliant goalkeeper and he's got a good future ahead of him as well. So what do you make of this whole situation? Should he be Are we all overreacting a little bit here?
Well, I'm a big fan of De Gea because he's had a great season. But I'm going to go back to something I said before last season started. And I said it on AFU. I think Joe might have been on a show, and Joe was the host. And I said we should have got rid of De Gea. Now, I might have to eat my words on that one. I might have got that wrong. But long term, if we think Henderson's the answer, it's a bit convoluted, this answer. But long term, if you think Henderson's the goalkeeper that could, the next time, I mean, realistically, does anybody see us winning the league in the next 3 years? I personally don't believe that. So I would, if you think that's the case, I'd bed in Henderson, bed in a defence, and then build from there. Because you can only build from the back with a team. So in some respects, this season's could end up being a write-off. And you might get decent money for De Gea, and then you also save about 375 grand in wages. Because I think we're spending 650 grand on goalkeepers a week. You know, I mean, it's ridiculous. So you could at least put that money to some use somewhere else in the team. Let's have a thought. A decent holding midfielder wouldn't be a bad shout. So you bed Henderson in, get the defence round in, whether it's 3 at the back, 4 at the back. If you think Henderson's the one. If you don't think he's the one, then sell him. Sell him in the summer. Those crazy Geordies will probably buy him, and he'll help them get out of the Championship next year. So, but they're the ones who could offer him the money. So, you know, I see what John's saying about a club of Everton's level, but I'm not sure he could get rid of Pickford, because I think Pickford's still quite a decent keeper. I personally rate Henderson. I think he's a good keeper. And I also think, and I think Stu has mentioned this in the past, he's better with his feet. So if you're playing a system where you want a keeper to use his feet more, I think Henderson might be the answer. I mean, there was the incident the other day where De Gea didn't come for the ball, whereas Henderson, would have come and cleared everything out of that. There was a ball that was played over the top. De Gea made a couple of steps forward and backed off, and then I think he hit the bar, didn't he? Was it McGinn who came in and smacked one against the bar from about 5 yards out? So I'm sort of a bit. De Gea's been a magnificent servant to the club, you know, absolutely amazing. I mean, when they signed him, he built like a twiglet, wasn't he? But you can still get good money for De Gea. You'd probably get the same money for De Gea that you would do for Henderson, I think, in some respects. PSG, they spend money crazy. Juventus, there's loads of clubs that will spend the money. So it depends on if you think Henderson's. If he's not the future, let him go and see what you can get for him. But personally, it's a bit controversial. I know it is. If you think he's the answer for if he's the keeper for the next 10 years, then bed him in as soon as you can. Because we ain't winning the league for 3 years. We need to build a team now that's going to win the league in maybe 4 years' time, because we are way off the pace.
Yeah,
That's another show.
Yeah. Honestly, that's a 2-hour special in itself. But Abdul, I'll come to you, because I think, going off what Stu said, I think I agree with him. With the way Rangnick likes to play, he likes to play with that high line. Henderson, although he's not as good of a shot stopper, he's probably better suited to this style of play. But then also, how do you justify putting a goalkeeper as good as David De Gea on the bench, who's on that level of wages as well, almost 350 grand a week or something, I think he's on. How do you justify keeping that on the bench? So what do you make of this whole situation, and what do you think is the solution moving forward?
I alluded to it earlier when we were talking about Donny van der Beek's situation and why he needed to play so badly. Simply put, he wants to get into the national team for the World Cup. So clearly his primary motive isn't necessarily is Man United right now. It's more to just get his game time up. And with Henderson, it's the same thing. I do believe Jordan Pickford is England's number one. He wants to take that position off of him, but I can't see any other goalkeeper at the moment challenging him. Now, when it comes to Manchester United, that's an England position, by the way. For Man United, David De Gea has this ability right now, somewhat, to just step up his level when United are struggling, and we don't need to rely on him so much. I feel in games where we should be winning them against the sides near the bottom of the Premier League, or for example, in matches where we should really have more control of the game, as Ralph is referring to. For example, in the games against Wolves, we should have better control of that game. We had skittish moments against Burnley as well, even though we won it. But we were relying on De Gea in moments against Aston Villa as well. And we're probably going to do the same again tomorrow. This is and it's probably that he's in such good form is what is keeping Dean at the team. Tom Heaton being at the club, a wise, experienced head. He's done it all, and also I think it's more to stop him playing against us because he's very good against United. More or less, I think he is considered to be the much more reliable goalkeeper to have when called upon. So I think Henderson feels out of place at the moment. He feels like he's not getting his game time. He's not all that he deserves. He feels he wants an opportunity to not only prove to Ralph and the United fans that he is a goalkeeper for the future, as Neil's alluding to when it comes to building on upwards for the next few years or so. I think I can see him moving in this window if he does get itchy feet any more than he does now. And on top of that, my true genuine feeling is that if David continues to keep this form going through this season and into the next one, then I can see Dean moving on this summer, and I can see us getting a decent fee for him. It might be a Newcastle signing because knowing them, they are desperate to succeed now. Even if they do get relegated this season, they'll probably want to flog as much money on the players such as Henderson or others as possible during the summer. They don't care. They can offer the money. I think the players will just light up their money, the money bags on their eyes, and move on to the next thing. So, yeah, for me, Henderson's got a very difficult situation in front of him. I think he loves Manchester United. He's a massive part of that recent academy burst that we had with Rashford, Lingard, and co in the last few years. And looking into the future, like James Garner now, Deschamps Bernard, Ted Mengi, all these guys coming through. Henderson was a part of that. So I feel if we do lose him, it's more because United are not exactly taking care of those young stars that are looking to become the big names in the future in our colours. And it's a shame it's come that way. The only way I can see him getting a bond, though, is if De Gea moves on. And I think De Gea is making it clear through his form that he's not moving anytime soon. So
yeah, it's weird, isn't it? We seem to be having the same discussion sort of twice a year about these goalkeepers, and I suppose the only way we're going to solve it is by getting rid of one. But I've got through all the talking points that I wanted to, so I'll open the floor in case anyone's got any closing statements. I think with Neil on the panel, I do that very cautiously. But
how dare you? How dare you? You'll be getting a letter from my solicitors, and there are many. I've spoken to many over the years, so I know how this works. I've received many, and I've sent many out. How dare you? I'm turning over a new leaf.
I've
only swore once.
Turned up sober to this one as well, didn't you?
Well, I had 4 cans of Special Brew and a bottle of red. So yeah, sober for me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
not bad.
Yeah, got the party poppers and I'm banging. I'm off down the Deansgate.
Oh dear.
No, I've got to say I've just enjoyed the show. I think I do. I love coming on the shows and stuff. And I think we've covered off. I'm worried about tomorrow. I'm genuinely worried.
It'd be stupid not to be.
It'd be interesting to see what the betting is. I would imagine Villa might be favourites going into this game, which is highly unusual for a United team. That's normally, as a club, we've normally done really well at Villa Park. And I've had some great nights at Villa Park. I had the shit kicked out of me once, but there wasn't even a game on that night.
That's one thing I pick up on, that usually if there is one thing to take into tomorrow night, is that we do actually have a good record at Villa.
Yeah,
I know,
we have got
redundant.
it.
Yeah,
Guys.
so-
I mean, I was there the night the shirt that John's got on when Sharpie smacked a couple in. But I am genuinely concerned about tomorrow. There's two things to be concerned about. One is Steven Gerrard, and the other one is Coutinho, because he's a right player if he's on the ball.
I'll tell you one thing. I think because I was at the game on Monday, McGinn controlled the game really well.
Don't wind me up, John. Don't wind me up.
But he's actually suspended for the game tomorrow. So
I don't want Reece.
miss for them. So
I don't want Reece on my case. I love you, Reece, but leave it alone about McGinn, and I promise I will.
Oh boy.
Well, yeah, I think on that note, go on.
I'm sorry for my slow internet. I'm gonna sort it out eventually. No, just in my head, I'm thinking right now we really need to make the most of our games in hand. I know I'm looking too far into the future, but obviously tomorrow is tomorrow. A must-win game again. 3 points in the bag would be helpful. The performance. If it's bad, sure we'll call it out, but the fundamental thing we need to focus on tomorrow is getting the result, ensuring that we go into that game against Brentford on Wednesday with a chance, at least some chance of getting into the top 4 on Wednesday night. So if we can at least win on Saturday and then focus on getting the result against Brentford, because that's going to be a really difficult game. Yes, they're newly promoted, but they've acquitted themselves in the Premier League brilliantly this season, like they've been here many years. I think we're going to have just as difficult a time there on Wednesday as we're going to have tomorrow. So we've got to win tomorrow and we've got to win on Wednesday as well. But that in the immediate future, don't let Coutinho pick up the ball outside the box for 30 yards, please. David's already had one bad experience against him. I do not want another. As I can see, because I can see him picking that ball up from a distance, and he's done it in Barca colours. So if he does it in Villa colours, we're just as cursed against him as anyone. But 3 points, please.
Yeah, great. Greenwood scored 2 and 2 at Villa the past 2 seasons, so I back him to score tomorrow.
I'd take a Mason Greenwood winner. Certainly would. But yeah, I completely agree. Results over performances at this point. I don't care how badly we play.
Winner.
Oh God, we all would. We all would. Get that statue built, honestly. But
you'd have to have a statue. You'd have to have a sling.
Oh, it was that game. Speaking about Gerrard, wasn't he in the Liverpool? Was he in the United end the last time we won at Anfield? And the crowd were going out, Jonesy 1, Gerrard 0. That'd be brilliant, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but the Jones statue will have a sling, won't it, or a crutch?
Yeah, a pair of crutches. It's got to be. It's got to be. But listen, I'll before this descends into chaos, I'll wrap it up. Neil, Ahmed, John, it's been a pleasure as always. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. Same goes for the viewers. Thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you very much for getting all your comments in as well. Make our debate all the more interesting with all your opinions. So it's much appreciated. If you did enjoy, be sure to like and subscribe and stay tuned for coverage after tomorrow's game. Hopefully, Mark will be bringing you a post-match reaction from a game we've actually won, because he doesn't seem to do that very often. So until then,
I'm on tomorrow, so I'm on that. So he was on for the Aston Villa game, the FA Cup game, so he's going for 2 in a row. So let's do it for Mark.
Honestly,
Mark if the lot doing.
If we do lose, make sure, John, that you tell him it's all his fault. From me, you can say it's from me. It's fine.
And me.
Yeah, let's hope we do get the result. But I suppose we'll find out tomorrow. So tune in for the post-match reaction with Mark. But until then, we'll see you next time.